Pain, speak to me!
Acolyte of Pain is a classic, neutral, common, 1/3 for 3 mana whose card text reads, whenever this minion takes damage, draw a card. According to Arena value, Acolyte is picked 40% of the time in Arena. Adwicto rates Acolyte as below average in Arena, while Trump rates Acolyte as average in Arena, the 43rd best neutral common card out of 83. Acolyte holds an important place in the Hearthstone card pool in that it is one of the few neutral cards that can not just cycle itself, but actually increase your hand size. Gnomish Inventor, Loot Hoarder, etc. all draw a card, but they themselves are also a card, so they only cycle or cantrip. Acolyte can many times draw 2 or 3 cards, netting you additional cards. As such, Acolyte is a great choice for classes which are low on options for card draw, and also for decks that need to dig through their cards as fast as possible, like Freeze Mage. With all this talk of card draw, it's easy to forget that Acolyte does come with a 1/3 body, which in a vacuum is really quite bad for 3 mana, but it isn't negligible. Being able to trade with 2 Leper Gnomes against an aggressive deck is a pretty big deal. Acolyte's main drawback is that he is a very slow card. You usually don't draw the cards right away, and spinning all of turn 3 for a 1-attack minion is very low on tempo. Most decks that run Acolyte have to have some sort of comeback mechanics like Warrior's Cheap Removal or Freeze Mage's board clears, because it's difficult to maintain board advantage with plays so low on tempo. Don't forget that you can Fire Blast your own minions. The card draw is absolutely worth the health you lose on Acolyte. If you can afford to, try to hold the Acolyte for when you can guarantee a draw out of him with a Fire Blast or a Death Bite or something. Against Priests, I try to drop him early as Cabal Shadow Priest makes him a liability to play after turn 5. Remember that destroy effects like Shadowward Pain and Stampeded Kodo don't do damage, so watch out for those as they will completely deny you the card draw. Always keep your hand size in mind when you play Acolyte. If your opponent is crafty enough, he can often cause you to overdraw if you miss time in Acolyte. Anything with the ability to damage your own minions is good with Acolyte. Commanding Shout makes it easier to get Acolyte to take damage twice without dying. Hobgoblin will buff up the Acolyte. The currently unreleased but announced Hungry Dragon card can often produce a minion that is able to damage Acolyte without killing it. Cards that benefit with more cards that you have in hand, like Mountain Giant or Twilight Drake, are pretty good with Acolyte. Redemption can turn into what's essentially a cycle or cantrip card if you use them in conjunction with Acolyte. Void Terror has some anti-synergy with Acolyte because he has the destroy effect, so you will not gain any cards if you have to drop a Void Terror next to an Acolyte. Wailing Soul has some severe anti-synergy with Acolyte as he will completely deny you the card draw. Counters to Acolyte of Pain are Cabal Shadow Priest, any silence effect, Shadow Madness, Shadowward Pain, and Stampeding Kodo. Acolyte of Pain is good to put in your deck against cards that do random damage like Goblin Blast Mage, Avenging Wrath, the Bombers, Arcane Missiles, Boombots, and others that I may be leaving out. He also stacks up well against decks that have a lot of 2 or less health minions or have cards that produce tokens that are 2 or less health. The deck I'm going to be using to show off Acolyte here is a Control Hunter build, and this is very loosely based off of a deck or a combination of decks by a guy named Spark, who's one of the few people who plays Control Hunter consistently at high rank legend. I chose Control Hunter over the normal decks that have Acolyte like Control Warrior or Freeze Mage because I wanted to show off how Acolyte can provide card draw as a neutral card for classes that really have really poor card draw options, like Hunter, after they nerf Starving Buzzard, has almost nothing to help it draw cards well. So we've got 2 Acolytes. I don't think 1 Acolyte would be enough. We got 2. As far as what synergizes with it, Wild Pyromancer, you can put down a Wild Pyromancer along with an Acolyte and then do some sort of spell, like Hunter's Mark something, and whatever you Hunter's Marked will be killed by the Pyro, and you'll draw a card from the Acolyte. Steam Weedle Sniper has some pretty weak synergy, but you can ping your own Acolyte when the Steam Weedle Sniper is on board with your hero power. That's pretty much it for synergies with Acolyte. I'm just going to go ahead and go through the other cards here. So 2 Hunter's Mark. Like I mentioned earlier, Hunter's Mark synergizes with Pyro. You can take out a big creature that way, or you can use Arcane Shot along with Hunter's Mark to take out a big creature. Explosive Trap is really good for keeping you alive against aggressive decks. Snipe is not a common trap to be using in Hunter. It is one of the more control-y traps, which is good. You sort of have to sit on your traps a long time when you have freezing and explosive trap. Like, your opponent knows they're just not going to attack into you. One of the key synergies in this deck is the Eaglehorn Bow with the traps. You really want to get value off of your Eaglehorn Bow and sort of keep it pumped up to be constantly being able to remove 3 health things from the board. And Snipe activates a lot more easily than the other traps. Mad Scientist, if you're going to play traps in Hunter, in my opinion, you got to play Mad Scientist. Steam Weedle Sniper, this is a card introduced in GVG that pretty much signaled how Blizzard wanted to try and open up options for Hunter to be a control deck if it wants to. I'm not sold on Steam Weedle being a really great card overall, but since they did put a card in for Control Hunter, we're going to put that card in our Control Hunter and see how it works out for us. Wild Pyro's already sort of talked about. They can help you clear the board. You got a bunch of spells. It also synergizes with the big card we haven't talked about yet. If you get Gazrilla to stick and you have a Pyro in your hand, you can just throw out spells and all of a sudden you got like a 2 billion damage minion on the board. Eaglehorn Bow I already talked about. Big Game Hunter. This sort of just stems from Dr. Boom being in the meta. Piloted Shredder. Just a good, solid mid-game minion. Sludge Belcher. We are a control hunter, so we are going to need stuff to stop aggro, and Sludge Belcher is really good for that. Piloted Sky Golem, I think it's a really solid mid to late game minion and really sticky. And 2 Savannah Highmanes, those are just the hunter card. Sylvanas, again, just a good solid 6-drop. Dr. Boom, really great stats for its mana. Gazrilla is our finisher here. It sounds a lot better than it is, but it is still pretty good. Really slow. It can win you the game. And Ragnaros. Rag is just a really powerful card if you can fit it into your deck. Can really swing the game in your favor. Alright, let's see if we can get some wins with this. Okay, so we're up against a Warrior. I believe Warrior is a pretty bad matchup for this brand of Control Hunter, but I'm not entirely experienced with either side of this matchup, so I won't say that for certain. We keep the Shredder because against Warrior you don't need to dig for 2 or 3 drops really hard because they have the fiery War Axe anyway that's just going to take them out. So it's definitely okay to have a slow mulligan keep against Warrior. Okay, he's coining out an Armor Smith. So, if he's coining out an Armor Smith, he may just be afraid that we're Face Hunter and felt pressured to get out a minion as quick as possible, or it may mean that he has a second Armor Smith in hand. Or perhaps a Fiery War Axe in hand. But he has the second Armor Smith. And we just dropped the Mad Scientist. It's a lot better than the Steam Weedle Sniper in my opinion, because you don't want that dying to Fiery War Axe. If you can, you want to be able to use Steam Weedle's effect the turn that you drop him, and not just have him be a 2/3. So there's no good way, well, there's no real efficient way for us to take out these Armor Smiths. We do have to use our Eaglehorn Bow and overkill it a little bit. And having a 1-charge bow is a little precarious because then you won't be able to use it while you wait for the Warrior to activate your traps. So he decides to kill the Scientist, and we got a snipe off of it right away, and it kills his Acolyte. So he's only getting 1 draw off his Acolyte. I think that's pretty good value for a snipe, honestly. Snipe is traditionally known as being like one of the worst hunter traps. But in this deck, I think it fits. And as you saw there, it can get you some pretty good value and cleanly kill some minions sometimes, especially since they're not going to be expecting it. So, since we saved our Steam Weedle, we were able to get full value out of him by using his effect to kill an Armor Smith. He Death Spites it, which is pretty a-okay with us. And a Shredder. always good against Warrior because Warrior likes to take things out with weapons and stuff, and the positive thing about weapons is you know, most of Warrior's weapons have 2 durability, so you get to take out 2 things with 1 card. But when you have sticky minions like Piloted Shredder, he only gets to take out 1 thing with 1 card, which is not good because the downside of the weapon is it does damage to yourself. So Shredder's really good against Warrior. You see he decided to not even hit it because it's just that good. Now here we can drop Sylvanas. We can attack into the Belcher and kill the front end, possibly. We get a Mana Addict, and we do have 3 spells in hand, so this is interesting. Something cool might happen here. We'll see. So, since I'm down to 1 charge on the bow, I decide to just go ahead and play the Snipe, maybe. It's either that or the Sylvanas. The problem with Sylvanas is it gets taken out by the Death Spite, combined with the Death Spite Death Rattle. But I guess it's okay. We're not going to get the ooze on the slime, unfortunately. But it does force him to use an execute on a 1/1 minion here, or a Taskmaster if he has it. Otherwise, we will be able to do a pretty substantial amount of damage to either him or whatever minion he drops with the Mana Addict. And he has a Whirlwind, which is unfortunate. That's probably, you know, he had a really clean way of dealing with our board there. I'm not sure what I did was the right play. Just overall, killing the Sludge Belcher maybe wasn't right. Dropping the Sylvanas maybe wasn't right. But we're doing okay. Turn 7, we have a Gozrilla. He doesn't have any armor, so he's either going to have to execute it or just leave it on the board. And it's really scary to leave Gozrilla on the board. Sludge Belcher makes it not so scary because it is pretty hard for us to get through a Sludge Belcher as a hunter. And it looks like we are going to just have to attack into the Belcher, which will most likely mean he can kill Gozrilla. We can Hunter's Mark his Dr. Boom and Arcane Shot it. And I think that's a pretty good play. A 7/7 is really really intimidating here. And it does give us the possibility for Gozrilla to survive, because he'll be at 6 health and he has 3 damage if none of the boom bots hit. So it looks like we are going to Hunter's Mark and Arcane Shot that. And it's a 2-for-1 at best, but, you know, that's something that happens a lot with this type of deck. Which is why we have Acolyte in here. I didn't mention how we drew Acolyte and dropped it, which is the card we're talking about. Acolyte matches up really well against the board he has here because it's 3 1-attack minions, so we're very likely to get more than 1 draw off of Acolyte. And we're really low on cards, as this deck tends to get, so we really do need the draws that the Boombots can provide. Not the Boombots, the Acolyte. So here he needs an execute, or he may be in a whole lot of trouble. We'll see if he has it. The fact that he's pausing so long makes me think maybe he doesn't. Or he could have a Shield Slam and something to combo with it. And he does. So, I mean, you can't really expect Gozrilla to survive against a warrior anyway. So that's not really as devastating as it looks like. It's kind of something you just take as par for the course. Steam Weedle was a pretty good top deck here. I'm just deciding what's the cleanest way to clear the board and also get a draw off of Acolyte while keeping him alive. I'm thinking you attack with the bow into the slime. You attack the Boombot with the Acolyte, and then you drop Steam Weedle and Hero Power down the Shield Maiden. So we do that, we get our draw off Acolyte. Let's see what the Boombot hits. It hits the Acolyte again, but only for one, so we're getting maximum draw off of this Acolyte, which is really great. And we drew a Boom and a Piloted Sky Golem, so we can't play one of those big dudes and use the Steam Weedle Hero Power in the same turn. So I decided to be a little bit wasteful and just use the Arcane Shot to allow us to develop our board much better. And he has a Brawl. So Brawl doesn't do damage, so Acolyte's not going to get his third draw, which is a little unfortunate, but that's more than balanced out by the fact that Dr. Boom won that Brawl. So we won a really great 25%er there. And here I think it's just an easy Piloted Sky Golem, keep the pressure on. No need to attack with the bow, I don't think. We might get some more traps. And if he had Harrison, he would have played it by now.
I can take the hit.
Second Shield Maiden. The choice here is going to be, do I kill it? And if I do, how do I kill it? I can use the bow and the Sniper Hero Power to kill it. Or I can run the Sky Golem into it. We are a little low here. Let's see, if we hit the Shield Maiden, that'll put us down to 14. That's not the magic number. The magic number against Warrior is 12. Because they can Grow Mash Taskmaster. There's no way for them to deal 14 without a weapon out or something like that. So he's going to Grow Mash, and he's just going to use it to clear the board. So clearly we've put him under a pretty good amount of pressure, so much that he's willing to throw away his win condition here. And it's pretty clean kill on Grow Mash with the Hero Power Steam Weedle. Obviously you want a Hero Power first. And we drop the Shredder, just another solid body. Here, it's a question of whether you want to drop Pyro to try and better ensure lethal. And I decided to go ahead and do that. I think the second one might have been overkill, so I keep that one in my hand. And we got a lot of damage on board, and he's only at 4. Let's see what he's got. Baron Geddon, that's not going to do it. So it looks like we won this game. Pretty cool. I think it showed the power of Acolyte. Without those draws, we would have been dead in the water. We had not very good cards in our hand. But the Acolyte, that one turn, drew us a Dr. Boom and a Piloted Sky Golem, which are just the cards you want against Warrior. Here's two other decks which I previously mentioned use Acolyte most of the time. The first one is Control Warrior. Control Warrior has just so many activators naturally for Acolyte anyways, like Whirlwind and Deathspite and maybe Baron Geddon or whatever. So it's a really good fit for Control Warrior, plus they need the card draw because their class cards don't really have any good options for card draw. And the second one is Freeze Mage. Freeze Mage just needs to draw so many cards so quickly. So they've already got the Arcane Intellect, but that's just not enough. You also need Acolytes or maybe Loot Hoarders or whatever. You just need to get to that combo in your deck as soon as possible.
Bring the pain.